Hey everybody, Mr. Ian here, and we're going to be looking at how to play chess using our digital boards here, some of the resources available to you, and going over some of the rules in case you're somebody who's never played before, or if you're somebody who has played looking to just go over some of those moves and things that are done in the game of chess. So let's take a look at how we play. You're going to be assigned an opponent and a specific slide where you are going to be playing and who you're going to be playing against. So maybe you and your buddy are playing on slide 5 here. That's going to be your board and your resources. Once you're there, you're then going to be put into a breakout room where you're going to use your slide and obviously play the game of chess. Now, the youngest player gets to pick what color they want, and the oldest player gets to decide if they want to go first or second. In a normal game of chess, the white pieces always goes first, but this is a fun way to kind of share responsibility. Now, the goal of chess is for each player to move one of their pieces each turn in an effort to remove all of the other players' pieces, and more specifically to try to remove the other player's king and win. Really, you don't need to remove all the other players' pieces. You just need to technically remove the king. But nonetheless, removing the other pieces always helps. So when we play the game of chess, there are the following pieces. You have your smallest piece in the very front of the board, which is your pawns. Your rooks are in the corners. Your knights are next to them, your bishops next to them, and then your king and queen are in the very middle in the back row. Okay, so let's take a look at all of these pieces, how they move and how they attack, and that sort of thing. So this is your normal board. Okay, you have 8 pawns in the front. Notice you have 2 rooks in the corner, 2 knights next to them, 2 bishops, a king, and a queen. Your king has the crown, your queen has the cross on the very top of their crown. Whatever player goes first can move their pieces based on how the pieces moved. There are diagrams here. If you forget how a piece moves, you can drag up the speaker bar, click on that piece, and it'll show you diagrams as to how each one moves in case you forget. If a player's piece gets removed, meaning you attack it, you take it off the board, you just remove it, okay? And that way you know what's in play and what's not. Now, each of these pieces has a specific move that they're able to do, and those moves typically include how they can attack and remove pieces from the board. So here are those ways. A king can move in one space in any direction. So in other words, they can move in one space, any direction around them to get away from other pieces or to attack other pieces. So if this is a black king and one of these spots had a white pawn, it could attack it and take it, okay? The queen can move in any space, diagonal, forward, backwards, left, right, and can move as far as it wants on that line. Meaning, let's say this is where my queen was, and there's maybe the black queen, and there's a white pawn over here. I can move my queen all the way over to this side to take it out, okay? There could also be a black piece right here, and I can move just one space over to take it. But notice the queen has every far-reaching availability and positioning, can move left, right, forward, back, and any diagonal. Rook, very similar to the queen, can move as far as it wants, forward, back, left, and right, but cannot move diagonal. So let's say it's moving up to get away from another piece, or it's moving all the way down to take out an opposite piece. It can go as far as it wants, up, down, left, or right. Bishops can do the same thing, but only diagonals. Okay, so notice they can go as far as they want in any diagonal place. It can be one spot diagonally. It can be all the way down to the opposite corner, whatever works. Now, the knights are kind of tricky. The knights take a very unique path, and that is the L shape. Some people call it the 7. There's a lot of different ways of calling it, but essentially it's 1, 2 spaces up and 1 space over, but in any direction, and that's key. So notice he can move 2 spaces up and 1 space to the left, 2 spaces up, 1 space to the right. He can move 2 spaces right and then 1 up, 1 down, so on and so forth. The one thing it can't do, though, is the diagonal, okay? So it can't move 1, 2 diagonal, and then 1 diagonal. So it's got to be 2 up, left or right, 2 down, left or right, 2 right, up or down, or 2 left, up or down. Again, it can do this to either attack and remove a player. So if this is a black knight and there's a white knight here, I can do that to take out the white knight and vice versa. The pawn is very unique. The pawn can move 2 spaces from its starting place, meaning that very first line that all of the pawns are on. If you want to move each one of them up 2 spaces, you can. From there, they can only move 1 space, though. You can also move your pawn 1 space, okay? So let's say you had a pawn all the way over here. If you wanted to move it, it could only move 1 space. But if you come back to your pawn over here on the original line, you could technically move that one too. So if that's how they move, Mr. Regan, then why is there a diagonal circle? Well, your pawns can move forward, but they can't attack forward. So if there's a white pawn here and a black pawn here, neither of them can attack each other. They're stuck there. Okay, they can only attack diagonally. So if I have a white pawn here and a black pawn here, I can attack that pawn. So that one's a little tricky as well. They can move only forward, okay, only forward, and they can move 2 spaces from the start, 1 space otherwise, but they attack diagonally, okay? So that's a lot of pieces, that sort of thing. Again, the diagrams here will help remind you in case you're still learning, that sort of thing. If you have questions, reach out. Otherwise, good luck.